the British state appears to just have the one state religion now, and that state religion appears to be Islam. And I didn't ever vote for this. Yeah, I didn't sign up for that. Wasn't
certainly part of a manifesto that I ever read.
Yeah, and it's not very English if we're talking about that, Mr. Khan. But before we do, go and get Islander issue 3. It's out now. We've been demonetized again on YouTube, so thanks very much, YouTube.
It's wonderful.
Come and sign up. Come and support us. Go and buy it. It's a really good magazine, so you will like it. Beautifully modelled there.
Thanks.
Right, so let's go back to our favourite Mayor of London.
We're done with him today.
No, we're never going to be done with Sadiq Khan, because he's going to be the Mayor of London until time itself stops functioning. London was the first city in the Western world to host Ramadan lights display. It's a powerful symbol of who we are as Londoners. Well, I would have thought that Ramadan lights would have been a powerful symbol of Muslims, which again, fine, as you'd expect. Of course, Muslims celebrate Ramadan, so that's fine.
A whole month.
A whole month, but that's hardly diverse and inclusive.
No.
It's actually really exclusionary. So what Sadiq Khan is kind of unconsciously saying here is that to be a Londoner, you kind of have to be a Muslim, at least in some way. So, interesting. Okay, that's for a proud Englishman.
I just note as well the holy month of Ramadan. So any of the other religious festivals that I've read, number one, I don't think he mentions Jesus ever. Number two, the word holy doesn't appear with the word Christian or the word Diwali or any of them. Only holy month of Ramadan, which really, really annoyed me.
Yeah. Anyway, Keir Starmer then came out and was like, yes, of course. And let's watch this, because, I mean, this is just the most, glazing doesn't do it justice.
You see Muslims making a difference, helping to deliver every single one of the government's missions. In business, helping to grow our economy. In education, giving our young people the opportunities that they deserve. In our NHS, of course. In charity work. British Muslims are amongst the most generous group in the United Kingdom and beyond. So I must say thank you to you for all of that. And particularly what I know has been a very difficult time for Muslims here in the United Kingdom. With the pain of the conflict in Gaza and the suffering of the Palestinians, I've been profoundly moved by the images of thousands of Palestinians returning to their communities.
I mean,
what else could be said? I mean, yeah, they're making a difference in this country, aren't they?
well, not
Is it a good difference?
not a GDP difference.
Well, no. The crime statistics.
No.
But the working age people.
Yeah,
Loads of them.
Oh, yeah.
Loads.
Dependents, plenty of them.
But like the idea that he's essentially saying, look,
Consanguineous marriage. That's up.
we'll get to that. Britain would collapse if it wasn't for Muslims, essentially. Is what
Well, look, it's a lovely, isn't it a nice thing to be like, if I forget how much I really do loathe the political movement, the globalist political movement of Islam, and just say, like, it's great that a prime minister would say to anybody of any faith, oh, happy whatever your festival is. That's great. Sure. But to sort of say Muslims have done this, it's a very bizarre thing to do anyway, because it's not statistically necessarily true. And it will always then say Muslims are doing this, and the message really is others not so much.
Yes.
Or I'm not talking about others, I'm just talking about this one group of people, and it's
St.
really
George's
divisive.
Day, does he come out and praise the English? On, like, Dilwali, does he come out and praise the Hindus?
Well, he might praise Sadiq
Maybe.
on St. George's Day, so maybe he does
maybe.
praise the English after all.
But well, yeah. But yeah, this was really weird, kind of uncalled for, and looked. I mean, it's strange that you get into the realm of worship.
It's just very like, what are you what are you what is the point? Who told you to do this? And it reminds me of Angela Rayner doing I'm very pleased to be with these constituents, and she's in a group of all Muslim men in a room. It's as a
Being
woman
held hostage, yeah.
Yeah, but as a woman, honestly, it's really frightening. It should frighten us all. But as a female, looking at how the women in Iran and Afghanistan were looking in the 70s and 80s and how they look right now, I think if you're not frightened of this creep, this Islamic creep, then you're not paying attention.
Yeah, I mean, it's genuinely. And what he said as well was, you're helping deliver the government's targets or missions. And it's like, right, so are you saying the Muslim community in Britain is a client group of the government that is somehow advancing the government's agenda? I mean, that's
Yes, that is.
literally-
Yeah.
that's
that
exactly
seems to
what
be
he
word
said.
for word what he's saying.
Well, I mean,
right?
prior to being put in as prime minister, he had that meeting with Sadiq Khan where he explicitly said we need to do more to tackle like Islamophobia,
Wow.
and he was going to bring in his prosecutorial experience. To do
Yeah.
the thing.
Without saying anything about what it was. So let's say he was right, and there'd been this spate of attacks, right? Which we know there haven't been. There've been criticisms.
They use organisations like Tel Mama to judge such things, and they are an explicit like ethno-religious interest group who try to blow up all these statistics to make it look as bad as possible, whereas really it's just people calling to Tel Mama going, I felt threatened today.
It's really the blasphemy is coming back, isn't it? But I mean, it's already back with hate speech. So yeah.
Anyway, so you were saying about the consanguineous marriages. Robert Jenrick and the Conservatives have been trying to put a bill through to ban cousin marriage, which, again, nobody in England should have an objection to.
But it's strange that we have to do it in the first place.
Yeah, exactly.
Even
It's just
allowed
never
to say
necessary.
disgusting. So I would sort of
right.
I talk about it being gross and disgusting because I know my cousins.
Yeah, why
and
would you
weirdly, they were always out of the dating pool, and I feel it's also.
So you're not from Cornwall.
Not very tolerant of you, is it, Posey?
But it's really what you used to be able to say. Well, you can say. I still do say. I would say Pakistani Muslim. I don't know if you can say that word without getting cancelled on your channel.
I'm going to say it in the next segment, so don't worry about it.
You can say the word RAPE. Can you?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, so Pakistani Muslim rape gangs. You have to kind of say Asian. You were supposed to say Asian grooming gangs, and then actually it's not all Asians. And then with this sort of grossness of incest, like I'd say it was incest. And it produces.
only
Most
scientifically,
sense
yeah.
it
I
is,
mean,
yeah.
and so you're not allowed to. A group of Muslim men, I was arguing with them about it the other day, and they were saying, "Oh, it's not gross." I was like, "Oh, it
It's not
literally
gross.
is. It
I get to
literally
decide
is."
what I think is gross. Like, anyway,
Sorry.
you know who doesn't think it's gross?
Oh.
Sadiq Khan?
Keir Starmer, of
Keir-
course. Right? Because, the Conservatives are like, look, maybe we
Keir
don't...
Starmer just there like, well, I mean, who didn't have a crush on their sexy cousin when they were younger?
Oh, it's
No, but
so hideous, isn't it?
That's not what he's doing. He's
I
saying,
know,
no,
I
look,
know.
we have to protect the Muslim community. We're a multicultural society, and this is part of their culture. Therefore, you being a racist and trying to stop that would be tantamount to essentially hate speech of some
Listen, those birth defects, they're great for GDP, all
Yeah,
right?
stop being
The
racist.
NHS,
Yeah,
the NHS would be nowhere without birth defects.
Yeah, and so what we can see is the government and the instruments of government are essentially a Muslim advancement scheme that rely on the Muslims to do their agenda and are intent on making the Muslims front and center. So basically what they're saying is this is an Islamic state. Right? This is for Muslims, is what they're saying.
It's like the halal slaughter, and loads of halal meat is now on school menus, and it's on my kids' school menu, which I wouldn't let them have actually, because I totally fundamentally disagree with anything. I don't care whether animal slaughter is humane or not. We can have that argument that it probably isn't. But we made our laws and rules, and we made a decision in this country what was okay and how we should slaughter animals. Why then either Jewish or Muslim should be able to come in and say, well, we do it like this. Well, okay, then don't eat meat. Like, just don't do it.
Order it from overseas.
But it's very bizarre that we do this all the time as English, identifiably English people. We do it all the time going, what's the harm? Yeah, let's just do it. Let's just let them. And then the next minute you can't go somewhere and actually get meat that isn't halal.
Yeah. So,
Anyway.
on that note, no, you're absolutely right.
I think the most recent one that I've seen was that in Manchester, the Five Guys there has now switched to a fully halal menu.
Well, I mean, that's...
So I don't think you can get like a bacon cheeseburger there anymore.
That's just
What's
responding
the
to
point
market
of a
demand.
Five Guys burger if you can't get bacon on it?
5 pillars, it's now called.
Yeah.
You know what? We'll get to that. So you might think, okay, so the government's screwed. The state is generally against us, so we could at least go to the church for some Christianity. And good luck with that, because this is what they posted on their social media feed on Shrove Tuesday. Now,
Wait, they're talking net
zero. Yeah, net zero.
Net zero.
No post about Shrove
That
Tuesday.
is a religion, right?
Yes, it is. And the real religion is in the revealed behaviors of what a person does. You know, if you go to the mosque every day and you pray 5 times a day, you can really say now that person is a true Muslim. If you're constantly posting about net zero and you've got nothing to say on Shrove Tuesday about Jesus Christ, maybe, then you can probably say that the Church of England's real religion isn't Christianity. And it wasn't until the next day they were like, oh yeah, good point. There's something going on, isn't there? Isn't it like, yeah, that's right, Ash Wednesday, Lent, something, yeah, something like that. Oh God, get the Bible quick. You know, like
What's in here?
yeah, exactly.
Forgotten.
Has anyone read this? So the Church of England, not much use when it comes to defending the traditional faith.
And I just say to all people, if your children go to a Church of England school, do have a look at their trans inclusion policies, because you will find they teach that nonsense.
Yeah, their religion is woke. It's not Christian.
Catholic schools as well. There's a Catholic school near my house that has an enormous, like, you can see it from the street, this enormous murals dedicated to equity, diversity and inclusion on the wall. And aren't you supposed to be just teaching like about Catholicism and other things that schools are supposed to be teaching, like maths and English?
Yeah, and so you might be like, okay, well, can we go above the Prime Minister? Can we go above the Church?
Well, the Queen's dead, so...
Yeah, who's in charge of Britain on a technical level? It's King Charles, right? In the United Kingdom, he is the head of the Church of England. So you would think that King Charles, defender of the faith, might want to step in and say, excuse me, Church of England, we're a Protestant Christian country. Would you like to do something about that? But he's never really been a big fan of Protestant Christianity.
God,
he does have a few things to say about Islam, though. He's been saying these, as you can see, this is quite a young, quite young, quote unquote, from Charles from a few years ago. It's been going around. And
the rights of Muslim women to property and inheritance and to the conducting of business were rights prescribed by the Quran 1400 years ago. Some of these rights were novel even to my grandmother's generation. Think what could be achieved if mothers and fathers, the teachers in madrasas and imams, all sought to demonstrate to children how to translate Islamic teachings into practical action. Many of the traits on which modern Europe prides itself came to it from Muslim Spain. Diplomacy, free trade, open borders, the techniques of academic research, of anthropology, etiquette, fashion, various
from
types
Spain,
of medicine,
open borders.
hospitals.
That's a contradiction, isn't it?
Islam is part of our past.
this isn't that incredible? Like, basically, every virtue that Europe has comes from Islam.
Can I just say, though...
So wait, is it Judeo-Christian values or Spanish-Islamic values that made Europe great?
Well, you know, when they slaughtered the Spanish, it was that.
Oh, yeah.
Can I just want to offer one defence of this and how this is put together. Yeah. Could this not be part of a longer speech that was basically reminding Muslims that the recession of women's rights, which operates so successfully in Muslim countries, is not actually it is part of the teachings of the Quran. I think we all know that because I've read the Quran. But you could argue that they made it so far all those years ago to be so regressive now is nonsensical. Could that not be argued that aside from the open borders bit, maybe he was saying something quite instructive?
I mean, he probably is, and that probably is the case. But to say that everything good about Europe, like diplomacy, free trade.
Come on, Muhammad was diplomatic. It was like,
very diplomatic.
Convert or die.
I mean, outside of any...
Or is politics by other means, says Muhammad.
Yeah.
Outside of even any Christian values that you would want to attribute to Europe, I would just say what made Europe great and gave us all our values was just the people, first and foremost, the European people.
No, it was the Muslims in Spain.
Oh,
yeah, but anyone's European, so...
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways,
open borders. Gave us open borders.
Open borders. That's such a bizarre thing to say.
Well, especially when you think about how the Muslims came to be in Spain. It was an invasion.
Yeah,
they sent 80,000 men over and conquered the Visigothic kingdom in Spain. So, you know,
they tried to get
open borders.
They tried to get into northern France, and we had to beat them back.
Yeah,
you're all proper blokes here, aren't you? So you're all massively into your
military history.
Yeah.
I mean, I know all about the guy who stopped Islam from going further in.
I mean, come on, the Crusades are kind of awesome.
Aren't we looking back on the Crusades now with more of a well,
they were kind of.
Weren't they great? Well, no, I agree. I think there's this idea that they were terrible, but they were necessary.
Trying to convince people, like European people, that the Crusades were some kind of evil incursion into peaceful Islamic territory. It's just been another avenue of attack for people when we were defending ourselves. I mean, again, the fact that Spain was almost entirely Muslim, except for a tiny little mountain range at the very far north of it, should say it all.
I mean, I recently went to Rio, and I was talking to a Brazilian woman just on the English thing, just harking back to the English thing. And everyone in Brazil is Brazilian. And there's you don't even look back. So her parents are from Lebanon. And so she would say that, nobody would say you Lebanese Brazilian. You're just all Brazilian. And I was like, yeah, because you're all from somewhere else. So therefore your unification is the fact that you're from somewhere else and you live in this country. But that isn't the same as in England. Like I would, and this is before this, I happened to have the same discussion with her about being English.
Well, I was making this point because it's very much a new world, old world split. Because in the old world, countries and land masses are named after tribes, whereas in the new world, the people name themselves after the landmass. So Americans are not Americans because America was named after a tribe called the Americans. They called themselves Americans when they got there because the landmass had already been named. But England is called England because of the Anglo-Saxons. And so it's a complete inversion of what's happening. It's the further Americanization of Europe, basically. But anyway, so King Charles, you might say, well, this was a few years ago. Maybe he's changed his mind. Well, no, obviously not. Here, he's packing dates for the iftar celebrations.
Yeah, but with sausages.
With his sausage fingers, yeah.
So fast. You are
funny's happening. Packing dates.
I can see them.
More successful
Countries
than I can.
collapsing around
Yeah.
him. Here's what he's doing.
Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Like when this is in the history books, like, right, so
I
there
never
were
realized
Islamic
so
rape
sweet
gangs running around, and what was King Charles doing? Well, he's packing dates at iftar, obviously. Why wouldn't he be? Like, embarrassing. But anyway, so
He's a bit silly, isn't he?
He's
a bit silly.
Embarrassing. I hate him. So they had the iftar in Windsor Castle, and I mean, I've got friends who are like in other countries who are just like, wow, this is the sort of thing that you normally do to people when they've been conquered. It's like, that's a good point. Massively disrespectful at the very least.
It's not a carol, is it?
Horrible, awful wailing, I would describe it.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it, and it should never have been permitted.
I like screaming heavy metal, and I'm like, no, that's not for me.
And again, there's a sort of another Americanism where it's like, oh, don't we have a separation of church and state? It's like, no, the head of state is literally the head of the church. We are not an American republic, right? And so why are Muslims being allowed to go into Windsor Castle and have
Why are they? Why are they?
And the only answer I can give is that, well, I mean, our state religion appears to be Islam. I mean, look, here's Keir Starmer at the thing. Just loving it. He's thrilled. This is the best thing he's done ever.
I do think for people watching, though, who object, and I include myself in this, if you don't want this to happen to this country, then you probably do have to start going to church. I mean, I'm a full-on atheist, but I do feel like you might, in order to be culturally protecting what it means to be English and what the values are of what we might consider the values of this country, and you don't like the creep of Islam, then you are going to have to go and put your backside on a pew on a Sunday.
Have you done that?
I did go before Christmas.
So did I, actually. I went Christmas Eve, and I kind of hated it because it was a kind of modern church, where it's like I was thinking, right, okay, I wouldn't mind going to church if it was some guy who's slam the Bible down and go, right, you're all sinners for this reason, and then we're gonna have like proper old sort of gothic hymns or something, so it's like it feels intense. But no,
You want the Peter Hitchens church.
Yeah, no, I do. I want something that feels like Gregory the Great would have approved. You know what I mean? Like something quite intense. But no, instead what we got is like a pop song that had like Jesus lyrics over the top of it. And I was just sat there going, right, I hate this. It kind of made me want to take over the church and start just reading.
You've got school-age kids, though. So
Yeah, I know.
do you go to do they do a nativity still?
Yeah, they do still do the nativity.
Yeah, that made me feel Christmassy. 2 Christmases ago, I went to the church, and there was like a little Mary and a little lamb got lost, and there was a Joseph, and we sang terrible hymns, actually. And then this year, it was more like a PowerPoint presentation of the many names of Jesus. And what was really funny as well, he's like, if you haven't brought cash with you to donate, like when they pass in there's a QR code that you can. It's just very, But yes, I think go to church, go and like protect what you want to protect, and be part of that.
That's
really
true. I agree. And so okay. I mean, Islam might be the state religion, but it's not like Muslims are going to get special privileges under the law.
No.
Turns out they are, actually. So here are the pre-sentence report guidelines. So this is advice that is given by what's the name of the thing? There's a particular name of the institution that's
CPS?
Not the CPS. It is I can't remember the name of it. But there's an institution that was set up by the Conservatives in 2010. I've got it written down here somewhere.
Woke idiot kind of guidance. No?
Yeah, it is basically
Okay.
that. But this was set up in 2010 by the Conservative Party. The Sentencing Council is what it is. Sorry, there we go. So the Sentencing Council was set up in 2010 by the Tories and Lib Dems to give advice to the judiciary about how their sentencing should be carried out and what would be fair, right? And so they give these guidelines out. Now, the guidelines aren't themselves law, but they are heavily taken into consideration. This is essentially the government's instruction on how they want things to be. And as you can see when we get down to the pre-sentence reports, so they do these pre-sentence reports before forming an opinion of the sentence. And these are legally required in certain situations. So they say, normally considered. So they say the pre-sentence report would normally be considered necessary if the offender belongs to one or more of the following cohorts. So we're very clearly looking at a two-tier system here, right? So if they're at risk of first custodial sentence or risk of one for 2 years or less, if they're a young adult, so 18 to 25 years, right? If they're female, right? Or if they're from an ethnic minority, cultural minority, and or faith minority community. So what we have here is if you combine these two, the young adult and ethnic minority, what you have here is special privileges for young Muslim men that are not given to young English men because they are not part of an ethnic minority or a faith minority.
Unless those English men are black.
Well,
who are these English men?
Yeah. But
also female. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Women get more lenient sentences.
But why?
That's a great question. I would say it's a general sort of patriarchal holdover from previous eras, where women have always been given lighter sentences than men.
But I get it if a woman is coerced, because there can be if you could prove that in a mitigating thing, that actually a woman was completely coerced, lived in a terrible, abusive relationship, but then also you'd be able to do that if it was the other way around.
Of course, yeah.
But just I don't really like that.
No, I don't.
Actually,
really.
even as a woman, I don't like pregnant, postnatal, 100%, because that is for the sake of a baby, and you are in a different. Yep. But no, okay. Sorry, you carry on.
No, that's fine. Because I do agree with you. That essentially what we have here is a stratified form of justice, and of course, straight white men who are 25 or older. So we could call them taxpayers because they are the majority by far of taxpayers, and the only net tax-paying demographic in the country are now at the bottom of the hierarchy when it comes to consideration under the law. So you will get a longer sentence if you are a tax-paying English man than any other demographic.
That's nice.
Yeah. It's just preposterous.
But what do you pay your taxes for? So you can go to prison. So
Well, to promote Islam, actually.
Well, we don't want productive people in this country, do we?
Well, no, absolutely. And so,
women aren't productive.
luckily, the Labour, what was the exact title? I want to get right, just so I've got it right. There we go. Lord Chancellor and Secretary of State for Justice, Shabana Mahmood, has reassured us that don't worry, we don't listen to the Sentencing Council. Oh.
So they're getting paid for no reason.
Yeah, so why are they there?
They're getting paid to twiddle their thumbs and come up with rules that no one will listen to anyway, but we won't disband them.
Exactly. She says the Sentencing Council is entirely independent. Okay, how do they make their money?
How do they?
From the government, obviously. Like, they don't have, private
what's the
initiative.
point of any of these things? There's loads of these. I'll digress very quickly, but there's the national police chiefs They sort of have a body, but they don't really govern. They don't really do. I don't understand what the point of any of them are. It's either law or it's not. Yep. Like, I don't care what you recommend and what you like to eat for breakfast on a Sunday. Like,
it's a long conversation that we don't have time for
now.
I'm afraid.
Shut up.
No, it's fine. Don't worry. I did invite you on to talk, so we don't have time to go through that. But she says, well, today's updated guidelines do not represent my views or the views of the government. I'll be writing to the Sentencing Council to register my displeasure and to recommend reversing this change to guidance. As someone who is from an ethnic minority background myself, I do not stand for any kind of differential treatment before the law. Well, I guess I'll take her word for it.
So she's going to register her displeasure and recommend. She's going to recommend guidance to the people that offer the guidance, so that the people that follow the guidance might not follow the guidance and be recommended by her if she doesn't recommend it.
That's exactly what's happening.
Okay, good.
And, we're going to just pretend that the judges have been completely neutral and haven't been showing favoritism to ethnic minorities for decades now. Rape a kid, a couple of weeks. Talked about someone raping a kid, a couple of years. It's genuinely what's happened in this country. And the only person I've seen of any substance calling this out has been Robert Jenrick, who said, look, this will enshrine anti-white and anti-Christian bias in the criminal justice system. It's like, yeah, well, it's already there anyway, so you might as well make it formal.
Islander issue 3 is now available to purchase from shop.lotus.com and is the next step in the story that we are telling with this magazine. For this issue, we have collected piercing and esoteric essays from the finest right-wing minds on the theme of our civilizational winter. Each of our authors is an expert in bringing forth the most important hidden revelations from the lowest reaches of the soul, and it has all been beautifully rendered in a medievalist revivalist aesthetic. For this issue, I commissioned a new translation of the ancient Anglo-Saxon poem, The Wanderer, and have written a companion essay exploring how it is a reflection of our modern experience. I personally feel that this is the most important thing I've ever written, so I will be looking forward to your feedback on it. We have resolved our distribution issues, with the magazines being printed in advance of the orders, so we can guarantee that you will receive your copy very soon after ordering it, and you will also receive emailed updates so you can see exactly where it is. Hopefully, issue 3 can provide you with the space and context to engage in deep reflection about the nature of our circumstances, to discover hidden truths about yourself and find the resolve to make it through our spiritual exile.